we know that the Danish post a very successful and performing social and welfare system. And what I asked them a little bit frankly, I said, there is a kind of a Danish paradox. What are you afraid of? When we say that in Europe we want more convergence, social and economic convergence, we want that member states grow closer to each other. Of course, it must be upward convergence. So what are you afraid of? You are sometimes afraid of this, but is it not also in the interest of the Danish people that the others come to the same social and economic level as the Danish people? I think it's strange that sometimes Danish are afraid of European action on the social side.
And you, of course, say this because you're in charge of the work with the European social pillar. And where do you meet this Danish concern in this work, which is about making the union more like a welfare state in some ways?
Well, what I discovered here, and in many talks with the social partners, also with politicians sometimes, that you see that I see that the Danish are afraid that, let me say, we from the European side are going to impose certain obligations to the Danish to change their social system.
Such as?
Well, when we talk about it would be good to have a minimum wage everywhere, Danish people say, yeah, but what are they going to do? They are intervening in our system. We don't have this minimum wage. We have social partners agreement that take care of that. We are happy with the social partners agreement. Of course, we stimulate them in Europe. So sometimes we feel that they are afraid that we are imposing things, what we are not doing. We are really, as much as the Danish people, keen on what we call the principle of subsidiarity. It means that everybody has his competences, and when you can solve problems closer to the citizens, then one should do this. And we do not only like this because this is in the treaty, but because we believe that from the European side, the Commission policies, what we are proposing from Brussels, that we have to ambitious on the big things, there where we can bring added value, and modest on the small things. Let me say, not non-important things, but things where member states can manage things on their own.
And as I understand it, this minimum wage, which is a little foreign to Denmark, is really quite central to the debate in the rest of the Union. And I think you've been recently asked by the Parliament to work for a European minimum wage. Can you just explain to us what are the arguments for this minimum wage?
Well, if we fight against poverty, if we fight against too much inequality because of ethical reasons, but also because we know more and more from studies from the OECD, from the IMF and so on, that too much inequality is hampering growth in the long run. If we fight against this, a minimum wage, of course, can be of a help. And that's why we say to member states, it would be a good idea to have that. Of course, it's depending on much other elements of social policy. And be assured, we from the European side, from the European Commission, we will never propose or try to impose a certain minimum wage. Let it be a uniform minimum wage for whole Europe. This depends, of course, on the living standards in the member states, and in the end, decisions on wages are up to member states. It is the competence of the member states, and in the member states, most of the time, of the social partners. This is now the case, and this will be in the future the case.
So what is the idea then of a minimum wage?
Well, what we are thinking of is to help member states to build upon that, to develop it, to support them in looking at the right indicators, the parameters you should use to say, what is this a minimum wage? How do you calculate that? Because you cannot just say minimum wage, it is I don't know, 500 euro or 1,000 or 2,000 euro. It depends on many elements in the different member states, and what we do and what we can offer is to give support together to calculate which parameters you use and how you can build such a notion as minimum wage and what it should be to have a dignified life, because it's about giving people the opportunity to have a dignified life in the end.
Now, I think a lot of people see the EU as being in the defensive right now after Brexit and with more nationalist parties gaining more votes. Do you see your work with the social pillar in in the context of that, do you think you will reply responses to some of the dissatisfaction?
Well, this idea was born earlier, before the Brexit and before a lot of other things that are going around now around Europe. But of course, it is an important element to talk with citizens. We have to tell the citizens again why it is so important to be integrated as a European Union. We are a small part of the world, but we have a big industry. We are we have 500 million people around, consumers. We are an important trade factor in the world. We have a voice together. And we can have influence on the way things are going to change in the world. We live in the globalization area, digitalization, population is aging everywhere. When we look common for solutions, we can have better solutions. And when we defend our values, the way, let me say, our social model, and we know there are differences within Europe, but we have something in common, and this is that we all want that economic progress and social progress go hand in hand, because we believe that they are reinforcing each other. And this model is unique in the world. We have to defend it. We can defend it if we stick together. And if we have good policies, we make ourselves stronger within the European Union to be stronger outside and to defend our values and to make it possible in the long run for our citizens to make their own choices and to live according to our traditions and values and principles in the future.